was the Origin by OXVA. OXVA have been making a bit of a name for themselves, a bit of a reputation from the start. They've got a very, very well-known designer who has been responsible for the design of this, along with a couple of bits and bobs that they've got going on as well. A single 18650 device capable of firing up to 40 watts, and in the kit you get a 0.3 and a 0.5 ohm mesh coil. So let's have a little look at it, shall we? So as mentioned, Justin Lay is the man responsible for the kind of design, the style, the finish, the fit. He's pretty much seems to be the guy who's responsible for everything about the look and the feel and the fit of this device. The man himself who's responsible for the Aegis line, basically. If you're familiar with the Geek Vape Aegis line, the Aegis Legend, the Aegis Boost, he's the man who is responsible for those. So I'm been expecting very good, very big things from this. So let's start right at the top with this drip tip, which can be removed. You see there you have a little seal there, a little O-ring. So you can't replace it with your own drip tips, unfortunately. But the drip tip itself is fairly comfortable. I've had no real reason to want to change it. On the one side, you always have your fire button, and then you have a nice size display. And you see you just got a single button here for your adjustment. And all you do is just press and hold that. Let's see it the right way around. Press and hold that, and it will spin through the wattage from maximum to minimum. So it's 5 watts all the way up to 40 watts. No problems at all there, very, very easy. The buttons themselves, they've got a nice click to them, but they're slightly kind of indented. They're not raised. So the fire button itself is quite small, so it's been okay. It's just a bit small, and because it's not actually sticking out, it's kind of recessed slightly. Can be a little bit of a pain at times to kind of use, but I haven't really had many problems. If you've got massive, big, fat sausage fingers, maybe you're going to have a bit of a problem. But for me personally, it's not a big deal. I just think maybe that button could be slightly larger. But there is a nice little illuminated ring around it when you press it, and when you're doing bits and bobs, it's quite nice, quite smart. Carrying on from there, there is a door on this side. Now, it's fairly kind of seamless, but there is a door there. And obviously, when you take the door off, you've got your 18650 battery, and you've got the pod. And that clips on absolutely lovely. I've got no real faults there at all. Apart from that, there's not really much to say about the actual fit, feel and finish. Everything does fit in very well. I want to talk about the pods though. So at the top here is your pod, and these take push fit coils that you have to use a little airflow ring. The airflow ring itself is removable, and then every time you change your coils, you need to screw that airflow ring onto each coil. Works absolutely fine. The actual pod itself is housed in there beautifully. However, a couple of things to do with that. The first thing is, if you want to adjust the airflow, you're going to have to take this whole pod out. Now, there is a little lip there which you can kind of get your finger or your fingernail in and pull it out. It is in there quite stiff, and you have to kind of wiggle it a bit to get it out. Once it's out, you can see on that side, there's your airflow ring. You can adjust that and then get it back in. Now I'm not even looking at it, so it's even more awkward. Just a bit of a fiddle, really. It doesn't kind of go in there very easily. I'm still trying now. I'm still trying to get it in. This is the trouble I've had. It goes in fine. Obviously, the trouble is because you've got to take that out to adjust your airflow. It can be a bit of a pain, to be honest with you. Every time you change your coil, you're gonna have to take the whole thing out, and I'm still trying. I might have to fast forward this bit. Got it. Maybe it's user error. I'm sure there are people out there that put the pod in first time every time. For me, I've pretty much had that trouble every time getting that pod out, especially putting it back in more so than taking it out. Putting the pod back in, just been a little bit tricky. Filling the OXVA Origin up is very simple indeed, really. You've got a fairly sized fill port there. I really had no real problems with actually filling this. You do get over a bit of time a little bit of condensation, a little bit of a leak maybe when you're overfilling or you're just a bit messy. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but generally filling it and kind of day-to-day usage and leaking, I haven't really had any problems. So the OXVA comes with a 0.3 and a 0.5 ohm uni mesh coil. Now you can also get a box of 1 ohm coils. Come in a box like this. You get 5 in the box, which is always nice to see. Very, very nice. And there's also an RBA. You might have seen the build section there. There's also an RBA where you can do your own rebuildables, fit your own coils. I'll get onto that shortly as well. Generally, out of the two coils, the 0.3 ohm and the 0.5, I like both of them. I really like both of them. The 0.3 slightly pips it for me at around 30 watts. Really, really good flavour, really good vapour production with that airflow all the way open. With the 0.5 just the same. What I do like about this kit is you can limit that airflow down, which is a bit of a fiddle, taking it all out and loosening the airflow ring, adjusting that airflow, putting it back together. But you could still, if you needed to, get a decent mouth to lung vape out of the 0.3 or the 0.5. You don't really necessarily need that high resistance. With the 0.3 ohm mesh coil, if you needed to, you could pop that wattage down to 15 watts or a bit less if you want to. Airflow at pretty much the minimum, you get a nice mouth to lung vape. So I've got the 0.3 ohm uni mesh coil in here. I'm going to stick it at 30 watts. I've got the airflow all the way open. That's how I've liked it. Let's give it a little bash. Really nice flavour out of that 0.3 ohm coil. Really, really nice. It really brings out the sweet notes. It's one thing I really like about these kind of low powered single battery devices. Ones that don't require a great deal of wattage to get those sweeter notes out, especially on the fruity sidey liquids. Really, really impressed. Can't really fault this for flavour. Really can't. These two coils, the 0.3 and the 0.5 uni mesh coils, really, really good job. The 1 ohm coil, obviously more of a mouth to lung coil. That's a round wire, it's not a mesh, but still performs pretty well. Still like the flavour and the performance from that. Still does a very good job. Overall, the 3 coils, I do prefer the 0.3 ohm mesh coil, but all 3 of them are very, very good. So this is the little rebuildable coil that you buy separately. It doesn't come in the kit with the OXVA Origin, but it's a rebuildable coil. So basically you've seen on the download, that's how I've found building it, and it's worked very well. One minor issue really is to do with the fact that with a 1 ohm coil, I've been using proper coils, mouth to lung Clapton wire in there. I found those coils really like around 18 to 22 watts. Because of the safety features inside the OXVA Origin, it limits that wattage to 15, which isn't quite ticking the boxes for me. A little bit of a shame. Now you can see you do get a nice little 510 adapter there on the base, so you can put this onto a regulator device or onto one of them Coil Master testing stations, if you want to call them that, and you can check that coil, make sure you're getting a good resistance, no shorts, all that kind of stuff before you put it into the Origin itself. But it works very well. It is a very good idea. The build deck is fairly easy to build on. It is small. We are looking at using very small coils in this. The posts themselves, the actual terminals and everything are quite small, but it does work very well. Just a bit of a shame about they're limiting that wattage. So what are my final thoughts on the Origin by OXVA? Okay, let's start with the good things. The first thing is, I do like this device. I really like the flavour and the performance from the 0.3 and the 0.5 and the 1 ohm and the RBA. Pretty much like all of them. They all do a pretty good job. There are just a couple of minor flaws. Now, first of all, we'll just start at the top. The drip tip itself not being replaceable might be a bit of a con to you. Personally, I don't have a problem with the one that comes with. The drip tip itself is comfortable, it's fine. I have no real need or want to replace it with one of my own. I like this battery door. I like how clicky and how it clips in there lovely. Everything's housed. The actual look and the finish and the feel of this device is really comfortable in the hand. Really, really nice. The display, the actual functions from this is very simple. You've just got this very simple bright display. Wattage only, and you kind of round robin with this bottom button. Speaking of the buttons being kind of slightly recessed. It's not a big deal, just another little tiny thing. I'm nitpicking really. Just don't like the fact that the button, especially the fire button, is recessed and it is very, very small. But it has a nice little illuminated ring to it, which is pretty nice. The pod itself is where there's a problem for me, because it's a bit of a pain to kind of take out and especially put back in. So if you've got to adjust your airflow, you're replacing your coil, you're going to have to take that pod out and adjust it and pop it back in, or take it out and change the coil and put it back in. A little bit of a fiddle for me. Doesn't really need to be that difficult. Now, it might just be me, you might be getting on fine with it, but for me personally, having to take that pod out and especially putting it back in, it's just been a bit of a pain. Overall though, I think the Origin does a very, very good job. You get very, very good output from this. You get very, very good flavour from the coils. The RBA, it does a good job, but it is a shame that they have limited that wattage to 15 watts on a 1 ohm coil or above. Just needs a couple more watts. There must be an update you can do for this OXVA. I'd really, really appreciate it. 20 watts on one of the proper coils, mouth to lung Claptons, is absolutely spot on, and it would work very, very well in this device. So maybe a little update for us OXVA would be really, really nice. So I hope that's helpful, folks. If it was, hit the like button or subscribe if you fancy. Of course, you can get my latest review there, a random one there, and a big, big thanks to OXVA for sending this over for a review. I'm Flagger Vapor. Knock the microphone. Thanks for watching.